Chances are you are among the many people who would love to wake up to a slow winter morning with a sunrise like this one, right after a lovely snowfall. I'm actually looking out at it right now through this window. I understand why you would want that. Many people want that. And a lot of people buy property thinking that they're going to get that, and it's not what they get. So let's take a look. I've got some things here. Here's a situation where somebody posted in our local community Facebook group. I actually admin this group. They started off in April like, anybody have a four-wheeler for sale? It's like, first of all, don't come up in April. It's not spring yet. You might think you can get somewhere in April, but that's kind of when muck season begins, and you're going to want to wait till the middle of May at least. But regardless, so 2 days later, we see this other post that says, my family and I bought land here. We are here, have no access to our land. We moved here from North Carolina. Does anyone have a rental available for about a week or so, or possibly a small parcel of land for sale with road access? Thank you in advance for any help. Now, I actually did reach out to these people, offered them some help. They had driven down, they had literally just driven across the country, stayed in Anchorage for a little while, driven down with a big old trailer, tried to drive out to the property that they bought, didn't know that they couldn't get there. I've seen this happen more than once. In this case, so usually when this happens, they can't get there because the road doesn't exist, or it has to cross muskeg that you can't drive across, and you think there's a road and there's not. In this case, they could see that there was a road that goes to the property. They just weren't allowed to drive on that road. There was a gate. That road did not have a public easement. It was not public access. It was owned by somebody who wanted to keep people out, and they didn't know that until they got here. So here are some of the other posts from that thread. No idea there wasn't access. There was what looked like a road going to it, but it seems to be a very private drive and not a road at all. Somebody responds, did you have a realtor? Somebody else is posting, oh, sadly, this happens quite often. You're not the first person to buy some land only to find out later they have no access to it or cannot build on it due to the swampy terrain. Hope it all works out for you. Another reply, did you buy it knowing there was no access? Just curious because I ran into a few people last year in this area looking at land that had no idea it didn't have access when they bought it. Another quote from that same thread, did you buy from realtor or private party? Just curious. One person, local person, says, better be a private party. That's shady. This person says, no, they bought it through a realtor. They found it on Zillow. So how can you avoid having this happen to you? Because it's going to keep happening. And in fact, in the case of this exact lot, it happened again, literally the next month. I'm going to cover that at the end of the video. It's slightly amusing, so please stay tuned for that. But how can you keep this from happening to you? Well, first thing you need to do is make sure that you ask the realtor, or however you do it, get the legal description of the property. That means it's the way that the property is described on the plat map, which will allow you to look up the plat map. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So let's say you are looking online for real estate. I am at the alaskarealestate.com website. This is one that I look at from time to time. And I'm just looking at vacant land in my area, which is Anchor Point. And I'm going to show you how I would do this process. I'm going to look at a couple of things they look like promising lots, like these two here. They look like you might be able to access them. It's a good price per acre. It's like, ooh, 40 acres for $45,000 or 40 acres for $52,000. Let's do that. Even the same thing with this one, but don't act so soon because you can't necessarily get to it. Let's look at this first one. This one says, from Anchor Point, go up north for about 6.6 miles, turn onto Tall Tree Avenue, this is totally not even remotely close to how to get to this property. This Gateway Road, which is the last thing they mention, it's like way up here, like off the map, and it's on the other side of a river that you cannot get across. So, again, whatever the realtor put in here, totally incorrect. But one red flag is that you look at the listing, and there are no photos from the property itself. You can see there are trails trails that, the darker this stuff is, that's the wetter it is. This lighter stuff, that's good high ground. You can see where there's trees growing. But you don't see any actual roads to it. And you don't see any photos of the property itself. That's because the realtor has never been there. And in fact, the person who is selling it has probably never been there. So this is that, where is that? Up here is that gateway road that it talks about, but it does not go across this river right here. Anyway, if you talk to the realtor, ask for the legal description. That's going to give you basically a place, like using this grid, that you can look up on the state recorder's database. If you can't get a legal description from the realtor, you can often get it from a local GIS program, like this is our local parcel viewer that tells you all about the different lots and whatnot. So I'm going to type in the address here. What was that address? 29675. And that's going to pop up here. We'll find it. It will allow us to see where it's situated, see what's on the way to it. Every borough in Alaska has a program like this that will allow you to search up properties, find legal descriptions, find all kinds of different things. If I click on it, it should give me something over here. Gives me the physical address, but if I come down here where it says legal, it's a little bit cut off there, but it's Township 4 South, Range 14 West, Section 9 of the Seward Meridian, Southeast Quarter, Southeast Quarter. So this is the system that was set up, like way back during the 1800s when surveying was really beginning to happen in earnest in the United States. So I can look this up if I go to the recorder's office. Now, Alaska is really cool in the sense that our recorder's database has like all kinds of stuff in it. It has everything that's been legally recorded. The search is pretty easy to do. So that description I just grabbed is the MTRS search. So I could put in the meridian, that was what? Seward, Township 4 South, Range 14 West. I've looked up stuff this way before. What was it? Section 9, Southeast Quarter, Southeast Quarter. So I'm going to look up Section 9. And it's going to give me a bunch of results of basically everything that's in this section. And it will list it by telling you more about the individual lots within that section. So when the search is done, I don't know why it's going so slow, I should be able to find something about the Southeast Quarter of the Southeast Quarter in this section. So that MTRS search will give you a list of documents, including the plat map. It will give you any easements, any liens that you might want to find on the property. These are things that will eventually come up in a title search, but you want to know them before that, because sometimes the title company will only do a title search after you've already put money down. So here's one of the other listings I was showing. If we even just type this address in, we can also search through the subdivision name. Now this listing is a little bit better. It still doesn't have any photos of the actual property, but it gives you like names of owners. It shows you a wetlands map, so you can see everything in orange and yellow is wetlands. Gives you an idea of where the borough maintained roads are. Doesn't highlight the property. The properties are like way out here. And you got to go down this unmaintained road, cross a bunch of muskeg that's going to drift in with north winds in the winter, and it only goes so far, and then you've got no road at all for the last bit. That's another matter altogether, but let's go ahead and do a different search. So I'll go ahead and search the new address here of this other parcel, and it was several parcels. And if we click on that, it's going to give us not just the legal description, but since this has been subdivided, we know it's called the Royal Highlands Subdivision. So I can take that. I can go in here and do the subdivision name search. Okay, so when the search finally finished, I remembered it was phase 11. So here's where I might right-click and open the plat in a new tab, it's actually going to download it for me. I'll go ahead and open that. But I'm going to go back here and click. If I click on this, it's going to give me a list of everything that's been recorded, but I'm only going to want to click on the one of the lots in question. Now, on this one, there were actually 8 lots. I'm just going to click on what it says for lot 1, just to show you as an example, but it's going to show me everything that's been recorded on lot 1, including the initial plat map in 1984, various disclaimers. These are probably oil and gas interests. This is when somebody didn't pay their property taxes. This is a deed from when it was sold. Again, somebody didn't pay their property taxes. And it was it was really only sold that one time. So this one guy who has had it since 1999 is the same one selling it. There's been no deeds since then. So what this tells you, you can see that if there are any liens on the property, in this case, these are property tax liens, and you can also see the certificate of redemption for when those were cleared, so that it wouldn't have any current liens. The last one would have been 2001, and that one was cleared. You might also see something in here that would say like easement, if there were any recorded easements. If an easement is not recorded, it does not exist. That's very important to remember. But anyways, that's how you get all the recorded information on a given lot. Now, if I was looking to buy these lots, I would repeat the process for every single one of these lots. I would go back here. I would go, okay, for lot 1. I would also go for lot 2. There's actually 84.2 and 84.02. These look like all of the same documents. Okay. Anyway, so that's how I would double check everything. I'm going to go back to that plat map. Now a plat map has plat notes. You'll see it over here where it says notes. I'm going to have to zoom in on that a whole bunch and see what those notes say. But the notes are going to tell you anything very, very important, like building setbacks, things like that. Any utility easements, anything like that. You want to make sure that you read notes on any plat, and not just notes on any plat that you're interested in buying. But what you need to do, and this is something that those people that I mentioned at the beginning should have done, you not only want to look at the plat map of the lot that you're interested in buying, but every plat or every subdivision that you'll be crossing to get there, just in case you don't actually have the right to cross that thing that you think you have the right to cross. Now on this plat map, we can see that there are, it tells you where the platted roads are. That doesn't mean that these roads exist. It says panoramic road. There's no actual road there. It's on the plat map, but that doesn't mean it exists in real life. And I've seen that happen before, where somebody arrives trying to get to a property that they bought, and they saw on the listing that it is a platted road. They don't understand that a platted road just means that it exists on a map. It doesn't mean it exists in real life. So if we compare what these 8 lots look like here on the plat map to what they look like on the actual aerial imagery, I guess I would have to go back here. This road doesn't exist right here. This road doesn't exist right here. In fact, there's a trail, snow machine trail, that sometimes four-wheeler trail, that cuts right through these lots that a lot of people might actually be using. And if they've been using that for a period of 10 years or more, they might be able to sue you for a prescriptive easement if they can establish that they've been using this trail to like get to their property or something. So that's something else to look out for, is whether or not there is established use already coming through your property and whether or not those easements are marked. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't come to some kind of agreement, but you might get sued if you try to block people that have been using a trail for a period of 10 years or more. Now, back to the people that I mentioned at the start. This is the lot that they had bought, and this in green here is the legal access to it. This is the platted access. This is where how they're supposed to get there, but starting here, it's like seasonal access across a swamp that is iffy at best. And then sometimes these people here might use this for access, and the rest of it is completely undeveloped, some of it crossing more swamp. So this road would take tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to build. Now this road down here that they thought was going to come right to their property, and there is a small offshoot that does come to the border. Well, if they were to have looked this up on the plat map, they would see that this road is not marked anywhere on the plat map. It was built by the person basically who owns the lot, who is somebody that built it with the intention of using it for a money-making venture. Now, they were told that they could use this road, they could be granted an easement if they paid the owner, I think it was a fee of about $12,000. Now, $12,000 is actually pretty good when you compare how close this is going to get you to your property compared to what it's going to cost you to build access, across this swamp and across all that. It's actually kind of a steal, but they didn't have that in their budget. They saw this lot that was cheap, that was in their budget, and they thought they could drive right to it, and then they found out that they couldn't, so they sold it right away, and they tried something else. And within not long, guess what? Somebody else buys it. Literally a couple of months later, somebody posts this in our local Facebook group. How can I be sure that an easement to a property is public use and not private land? Is there an area in this area that we should avoid getting due to wetlands, bogs, or flooding? Anyone who knows the area and maps, well, I'd love to chat before we buy a property. Now, this person did end up buying a property, and then I looked it up on that parcel viewer, and guess what? It is the exact same property that I was just talking about. And I didn't know it when I made this post. I was just trying to be helpful, but I told them, you need to look at plat maps, even though the borough mapping program might show roads that aren't legally platted as roads with no notes. In other words, that you might see a road when you're looking at the aerial imagery in the borough thing, but there's not necessarily a legal easement through there unless you look at the plat map and see if it's actually platted. And I said, if you were curious about a parcel, let me know. I'm so used to looking these up in the recorder's database, it takes just a couple of minutes. Well, guess what? This person did not take me up on my offer. They bought that same lot. They still don't know, as far as I know, they still don't know that they can't access it because they haven't come out here yet. And that brings us to the final point, which is basically don't ever buy land in Alaska without being to it first, without walking on it. They always say boots on the ground. You want to walk it in multiple seasons, ideally. So when people talk about moving to Alaska, most people who live here recommend don't move without a job. You want to get a job, first of all, because if you buy land sight unseen, chances are it's something that you're not going to be able to access. It's not what you think it is. You might think you can trust your realtor, but clearly you can't trust all of them. Some realtors are great and they will go out of their way to make sure that you have all the info. Some of them only care about making the sale. So you really only know by reputation, which you can't really tell from across the country. It helps to talk to community groups like on Facebook, like the ones that I was showing before, but nothing beats actually being here, because not only do you need to know the land, you need to know the community. You need to know if this neighborhood has a whole disproportionate amount of insane people in it, which some neighborhoods do. There are some roads, like in our local areas, like, oh, you don't want to buy down that road. This road's okay. Like, they all have their individual reputations. You're not going to know that unless you come and spend some time first. So again, I recommend buy only if you can put your boots on the ground in multiple seasons, ideally. That's a commonly said thing, but also spend a lot of time here, get to know the community, try to get a job in a community that interests you. That will allow you to live there, make connections, have friends, to scope out a lot of different places. And it might be the piece of land you thought that was great at first is not, but maybe something else will open up. Maybe there's something you can find through word of mouth. You never know. But a lot of people move up buying land sight unseen. They find out that it's not what they thought it was, or they can't even get to it, whether practically because they have to cross a swamp that there's no road across, or legally because there's no legal way to get to it. So Don't be somebody that spends your life savings trying to move to Alaska onto a piece of land that you've never even set foot on, because it happens so often that it does not turn out how you thought it would. So there's going to be several more videos in this series, but this is just like the first things first. I'm going to re-emphasize some of these points over and over again. But yeah, and as for that person that bought that land without hitting me up for advice, all I can say is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't fix stupid drinks. I don't know. I think I messed that up. Anyway, stay tuned and check out the next one if this is something that interests you.